TFA fam, thank you for joining me for another video. Hope your fantasy teams are doing well through the first 3 weeks. Got some defensive streamers and kicker streamers for week 4. It's not a fantastic week for streaming defenses, which maybe means good things because I was all about the Chargers last week and that did not turn out well. But looking at week 4, let's kick things off with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are just one of 9 teams to allow fewer than 5 yards per play. They get Tennessee in week 4, who are middle of the road in offensive yards per play. This game has the 5th lowest total in the week. The Titans have an implied point total of 19.75, which is tied for the 3rd lowest in week 4. Last week against Las Vegas, Tannehill was under pressure at the 5th highest rate among all QBs. Obviously, Taylor Lewan will not be returning, so maybe that's a sign of things to come. Shaq Leonard, I think, should be nearing a return. He's actually practicing full in all their practices the last 2 weeks. He has yet to be active. So if he gets back, that would be a huge boost to that defense. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, they are allowing the 5th fewest yards per play. Even with losing to Indy, you would have thought that Jonathan Taylor had a big outing. He really didn't. He had 71 yards on 21 carries. They get Tampa in week 4. Now, it never feels good betting against Tom Brady, but this team is still banged up. Obviously, Mike Evans coming back is going to be a big boost. But we're looking at a Tampa Bay team who has yet to score more than 20 points this year. If we look at 2021 for the Tampa Bay Bucks, they only failed to score more than 20 points 3 times. We're already 3 games into this season, and they have yet to do that. The Chiefs are tied for the 5th most sacks, and they're a top 2 team in pressure rate. Brady has taken multiple sacks in 2 or 3 games. I don't feel great about it, but again, this is a weak week for streaming defenses. Another option is the Denver Broncos going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Broncos are currently the DST 7 on the year in terms of fantasy points scored. They've allowed the 6th fewest yards per play. Now, obviously, they haven't been facing the highest ranked offenses either, but they still look good. They have plenty of talent. They're top 10 in pressure rate, top 8 in sacks. They haven't created a ton of turnovers, but this total against the Raiders opened at 46, has dropped to 44.5 with 81% of the bets coming on the under. And we know that Derek Carr can have a Derek Carr game, right? I think if we look at week 1, I think the Chargers sacked him 6 times and he threw 3 picks. So not the worst spot. The last choice here feels weird. If it doesn't feels a little gross saying it, but the Chicago Bears. If you look at them defensively, they really haven't been that bad. Now the offense, whole other story. Defensively, not bad. They have the 7th highest pressure rate. Daniel Jones is leading the league in dropbacks under pressure, dropback under pressure rate, whichever way you want to cut it. Teams are getting after Danny Dimes. The Bears, multiple turnovers in 2 or 3 games, multiple sacks in 2 or 3 games. They are 22nd in fantasy points per game given up to quarterbacks. They are 13th in PPR, fantasy points per games giving up to running backs, but that's really the glaring weak spot here. Wide receivers and tight ends, 21st in fantasy points per game allowed to those positions. So going up against the Giants, a team that's banged up, just lost Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney can't stay on the field, Wan'Dale Robinson we haven't seen yet, Kenny Golladay is on a milk carton. It's not the worst spot. I do just want to note really quickly that I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Philly after their performance last week and what they did. You might hear some people saying, they're leading the league in sacks with 12. Pump the brakes. 9 of those came last week. Half of their defensive fantasy points came in the game against Washington last week. So I definitely don't think it's a bad play going up against Jacksonville, but I don't look at it as like an absolute slam dunk. Let's wrap it up with kickers. Again, with kickers, we're looking at good offenses with high team totals. Starting off with the Philadelphia Eagles, let's talk about Jake Elliott, one of the best offenses in the league. Not going to overcomplicate it. I'll be going back to Jason Sanders. I talked about him last week. They have the Thursday game against Cincy. This is one of the higher totals we have on the week. Sanders hasn't been getting a ton done fantasy-wise, but it's because he hasn't been kicking any field goals. They've all only been extra points in the past 2 weeks. I don't think it's going to continue better days are ahead for him fantasy-wise. The Chargers kicker, Dustin Hopkins, going up against the Texans. Not buying into what we saw from the Chargers last week. Better days are ahead. This is still one of the better offenses in the league. Young Koo doing it again, man. Leading all fantasy kickers in points on the year. They get a matchup against the Browns, who have not been playing particularly well. Last one I'll mention. I know I talked about having good offenses in good spots, but Chris Boswell going up against the Jets. I think the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball against the Jets, maybe not score a ton of touchdowns, though, which is actually what we want from our kickers. All right, that is going to wrap it up. Any questions you have, please drop them in the comments, or you can join our free Discord. We're talking redraft, dynasty, props, DFS, betting, all that stuff. You can join our Discord for absolutely free. Link is in the description below. Please hit us with a sub and a like if you enjoyed this content. Good luck in week 4, and I'll talk to you soon.